Welcome to Premium English Hub, where fluency becomes confidence. Let's master English together. Many people in the world know the name Porsche. When people hear this name, they often think about speed, beauty, and powerful cars. Porsche cars look elegant and move very fast on the road. Many drivers dream of owning one of these famous cars. For many people, Porsche is not only a car brand, it is a symbol of success, design, and engineering excellence. But every great company has a beginning. Behind every famous brand, there is a human story. And thus the story of Porsche did not begin in a large factory. It did not begin with millions of dollars. In fact, the story began with a young boy who loved machines. This boy lived in a small town in Europe. He was curious about electricity, engines, and mechanical systems. While other children were playing outside, he often spent time learning how machines worked. That young boy later became Ferdinand Porsche. As a child, Ferdinand did not have many advantages. His family was simple, and life was not always easy. However, he had something very powerful. He had curiosity. He also had a strong desire to build new things. This curiosity slowly turned into talent. Soon, people around him started noticing that he had a special mind for engineering. When Ferdinand Porsche grew older, he began working with electrical systems and early vehicle designs. At that time, cars were still a new invention. The automobile industry was only beginning to grow, as many engineers were experimenting with new ideas. Ferdinand quickly became one of the most creative minds in this field. He believed that cars could become faster, stronger, and more reliable. However, the path to success was not simple. The world around him was changing very quickly. New technologies were appearing, but there were also many problems. Economic crises, competition, and even global conflict affected the automobile industry. During this time, Ferdinand Porsche had to face many difficult decisions. Sometimes his ideas were accepted. Other times, people rejected his work completely. Despite these challenges, Ferdinand never stopped believing in his vision. He wanted to build cars that were not only powerful, but also beautifully designed. He believed that engineering should combine technology and elegance. This idea later became the foundation of the Porsche philosophy. The story of Porsche is not only about cars. It is also a story about creativity, persistence, and courage. It shows how one engineer's ideas slowly grew into a global brand. Today, millions of people admire Porsche vehicles around the world, but very few people know the real journey behind this famous name. In today's guided reading lesson, we will explore that journey step by step. You will learn new English words and expressions while discovering an inspiring historical story. By listening carefully and following the narrative, you can improve both your vocabulary and your understanding of spoken English. Today, we will learn English through the true story of Porsche. To understand the story of Porsche, we must begin with the life of one man. His name was Ferdinand Porsche. He was born in the year 1875 in a small town called Maffersdorf. This town was part of Austria-Hungary at that time. Today, the town is located in the Czech Republic. Life in this small town was quiet and simple. Most families worked with their hands and lived modest lives. Ferdinand's father owned a small workshop. In this workshop, he worked as a metal craftsman. He made and repaired different metal objects for people in the town. Because of this workshop, Ferdinand grew up around tools and machines. From a very young age, he was curious about how things worked. He liked to watch his father repair equipment. Sometimes he even tried to build small mechanical devices himself. As a teenager, Ferdinand became very interested in electricity. At that time, electricity was still a new technology. Many cities were only starting to install electric lighting. For young Ferdinand, electricity felt almost magical. He spent many hours studying electrical systems and simple circuits. Soon, he learned how to repair electrical equipment in homes and buildings. People in his town began asking him for help with electrical problems. Even though Ferdinand was very talented, his father had different plans for him. His father wanted him to become a metal worker and continue the family trade. However, Ferdinand had a different dream. He wanted to become an engineer. He wanted to design machines and vehicles that had never existed before. This dream pushed him to keep learning even when the path was difficult. When Ferdinand was about 18 years old, he decided to move to Vienna. Vienna was a large and modern city compared to his hometown, but it was also an important center for science, engineering, and industry. In Vienna, Ferdinand found work at an electrical company called Bela Egger and Company. This job changed the direction of his life. At the company, Ferdinand worked with the electric motors and electrical systems. He learned how to build and repair complex equipment. But he also began thinking about something new. At that time, many inventors were trying to create better automobiles. Cars were still experimental machines. Some used gasoline engines, and others used electric motors. Engineers around the world were exploring many different designs. Ferdinand became fascinated with these early vehicles. He believed that electric motors could power cars in a clean and efficient way. Soon he began experimenting with his own ideas. He worked during the day at the company. At night, he studied engineering books and created new designs. His dedication slowly helped him develop strong engineering skills. During this period, Ferdinand also attended technical lectures in Vienna. He did not follow a traditional university path. Instead, he learned through practical work and self-study. This unusual path did not stop him. In fact, it made him a very creative engineer. He learned by solving real problems instead of only reading theory. Soon, Ferdinand's abilities became well known in engineering circles. His designs were intelligent and practical. Other engineers began noticing his work. That some people even believed that he had the potential to change the future of automobiles. At that time, no one could imagine how important his ideas would eventually become. This period of learning and experimentation built the foundation for Ferdinand Porsche's career. It was the stage where his curiosity turned into real engineering talent. The young boy who once repaired electrical lights in a small town was slowly becoming a serious inventor. In the next part of the story, Ferdinand Porsche will begin experimenting with new types of vehicles. These early experiments will lead him toward one of the most important ideas of his life. That idea will eventually change the history of automobiles. When Ferdinand Porsche began working in Vienna, the world of automobiles was still very young. Cars were rare machines, and many people had never even seen one. Engineers in Europe and America were experimenting with different ideas. Some vehicles used gasoline engines, while others used electric motors. No one was completely sure which technology would become the future. For Ferdinand Porsche, this was an exciting time. He believed that engineers had the chance to change transportation forever. Ferdinand was especially interested in electric power. He believed electric motors were clean, quiet, and efficient. At that time, many people thought electric cars could become the main vehicles of the future. While working at the electrical company in Vienna, Ferdinand started designing his own electric motor systems. He spent many nights thinking about how to place motors inside vehicles. Most early cars had complicated systems with belts and chains. Ferdinand wanted something simpler and more direct. His idea was to place electric motors directly inside the wheels of a vehicle. This idea was unusual, but it was very clever. When the motor is inside the wheel, the energy goes directly to the movement of the car. This design removes many mechanical parts. Fewer parts often mean fewer problems. Ferdinand believed this could make vehicles more reliable and efficient. In the year 1898, Ferdinand began working with a vehicle manufacturer called Jacob Lohner and Company. This company produced luxury carriages and early automobiles. They were interested in new technologies, especially electric vehicles. Ferdinand's ideas quickly attracted the attention of the company's leaders. Soon he began developing a special electric car design. This vehicle used electric motors placed inside the front wheels. The design was called the Lohner electric car. When the car was tested, engineers were surprised by its performance. The vehicle moved smoothly and quietly. It was also easier to control than many other early cars. The new vehicle became known as the Lohner Porsche electric car. This design was presented at the Paris World Exhibition in 1900. As visitors from many countries came to see new inventions and technologies. When people saw Ferdinand's electric vehicle, they were impressed. Some engineers believed it was one of the most advanced car designs of that time. The success of this project made Ferdinand Porsche famous among engineers. Even though he was still a young man, people began recognizing his extraordinary talent. His ideas were not only creative, but also practical. He understood how machines worked in the real world. However, Ferdinand also understood that electric vehicles had limitations. Batteries at that time were very heavy and could not store much energy. This meant electric cars could not travel very long distances. Engineers were still searching for better solutions. Ferdinand began thinking about combining different technologies to solve this problem. These early experiments were very important for his future career. They gave him experience in vehicle design and engineering leadership. They also showed him the strengths and weaknesses of different automotive technologies. This knowledge would later help him design many revolutionary vehicles. In the next part of the story, Ferdinand Porsche will explore even more advanced ideas. He will begin experimenting with new systems that combine electric power with gasoline engines. These experiments will push automotive technology to a completely new level. After the success of his early electric vehicle, the name of Ferdinand Porsche started spreading in the engineering world. Many companies became interested in his ideas. They saw that he was not afraid to try new technologies. His experiments showed that he was thinking far ahead of his time. However, Ferdinand also knew that electric vehicles still had a serious problem. Batteries were very heavy and could not store much energy. This meant electric cars could travel only short distances before they needed to recharge. For city travel, this was acceptable, but for long journeys, it was a major limitation. Ferdinand wanted to solve this problem in a creative way. Instead of choosing between gasoline engines and electric motors, he began thinking about combining both technologies. At that time, this idea sounded very unusual. Most engineers believed a vehicle should use only one power system. Ferdinand believed a hybrid system could solve the weaknesses of both technologies. While working with Jacob Lohner and Company, Ferdinand began developing this new concept. His design used a gasoline engine to generate electricity. This electricity then powered the electric motors inside the wheels. In simple words, the gasoline engine acted like a generator, and the electric motors moved the car. This design created something very special. The vehicle could travel longer distances because the gasoline engine produced electricity while the car was moving. At the same time, the electric motors allowed smooth and quiet driving. The system combined the advantages of both technologies. The result was a vehicle known as the Lohner Porsche Hybrid. Today, hybrid cars are very common, but at that time, this idea was revolutionary. Ferdinand Porsche was experimenting with hybrid technology more than 100 years ago. When this vehicle was introduced, many engineers were surprised. Some people even found the idea difficult to understand. The system looked complicated, but it worked remarkably well. The hybrid vehicle attracted attention at engineering exhibitions and automobile shows. Even though the design was impressive, the technology of that era still had limitations. The vehicle was heavy, and production costs were high. Because of this, the hybrid system did not become popular immediately. However, Ferdinand's work showed that he was thinking far beyond the technology of his time. These experiments strengthened his reputation as a brilliant engineer. Car manufacturers began realizing that Ferdinand Porsche had extraordinary vision. He was not only building vehicles, he was exploring the future of transportation. Soon, Ferdinand would move to larger automotive companies. There, he would gain even more experience designing powerful and innovative cars. These opportunities would push his career to a completely new level. But the world around him was also changing quickly. New industries were growing, and global tensions were slowly rising. These changes would soon affect the automobile industry and the life of Ferdinand Porsche himself. As the reputation of Ferdinand Porsche continued to grow, more automobile companies wanted his help. Engineers respected his creativity, and manufacturers trusted his technical knowledge. Over time, Ferdinand worked with several major car companies in Europe. Each new position allowed him to design more advanced vehicles and gain valuable experience. During these years, Ferdinand began thinking about a very important idea. At that time, automobiles were expensive machines. Only wealthy people could afford to buy a car. Most families still traveled by bicycle, train, or horse carriage. Ferdinand believed this situation could change. He imagined a future where ordinary families could also own reliable automobiles. This idea became known as the people's car. Ferdinand believed that a good car should not only be powerful or luxurious, it should also be practical, affordable, and easy to maintain. If engineers could design such a vehicle, millions of people could enjoy personal transportation. This vision was bold for its time, but Ferdinand was confident that technology could make it possible. During the early 1930s, Germany began discussing plans to produce a car for the general public. The project attracted national attention, and several engineers were asked to propose designs. Because of his strong reputation, Ferdinand Porsche became deeply involved in this ambitious project. His task was simple to describe but difficult to achieve. He had to design a car that was inexpensive, reliable, and suitable for everyday driving. The vehicle needed to carry a small family, travel long distances, and remain affordable for ordinary workers. Ferdinand spent many months studying different mechanical solutions. He carefully designed the engine, the suspension, and the body of the car. His goal was to create a vehicle that combined simplicity with durability. This project eventually led to the creation of a new automobile design that later became famous around the world. The car was developed under the program that later became known as Volkswagen. The name Volkswagen itself means people's car. The design that Ferdinand helped create would later evolve into the legendary Volkswagen Beetle. The Beetle had a rounded shape, a compact engine, and a strong mechanical structure. It was designed to be simple and dependable. These qualities made the car very attractive for everyday drivers. Even though the project faced many delays during its early years, the basic design proved extremely successful. For Ferdinand Porsche, this project was very important. It allowed him to apply his engineering ideas to a vehicle that millions of people could use. It also showed that his thinking was not limited to luxury cars or experimental machines. He believed engineering should serve society as a whole. However, the world was entering a very difficult period. Political tensions were rising across Europe, and economic problems were spreading in many countries. Soon, a global conflict would begin that would change industries, governments, and millions of lives. These events would also affect Ferdinand Porsche and the automobile projects he had worked so hard to create. The coming years would bring challenges that no engineer could control. The future of the automobile industry would soon become uncertain as the world moved toward a devastating war. During the late 1930s, the situation in Europe became very tense. Many countries were preparing for conflict. Political disagreements were growing stronger, and military power was increasing everywhere. Soon these tensions led to one of the most destructive conflicts in human history. This global conflict became known as World War II. When the war began, and many industries across Europe changed their focus. Factories that once produced civilian products started manufacturing equipment for the military. The automobile industry was also affected by these changes. Engineers and manufacturers were asked to develop vehicles that could support military operations. Like many other engineers of that time, Ferdinand Porsche became involved in projects connected to the war effort. His engineering skills were well known, and governments wanted experienced designers working on important mechanical systems. During this period, Ferdinand and his team worked on several military vehicle designs. These vehicles were very different from the small passenger cars he had designed earlier. Military vehicles needed strong engines, powerful suspension systems, and durable mechanical structures. They had to operate in difficult conditions, such as mud, snow, and rough terrain. Designing such machines required careful planning and strong technical knowledge. While working on these projects, Ferdinand continued to demonstrate his engineering abilities. However, the war created many complicated situations. Industries were controlled by governments, and engineers often had limited freedom to choose the type of work they performed. Decisions were influenced by political leaders and military priorities, rather than personal preferences. As the war continued, the situation across Europe became increasingly difficult. Cities were damaged, factories were destroyed, and millions of people faced hardship. Industrial production slowed in many places because resources were limited. Engineers and workers often struggled to maintain normal operations. When the war finally ended in 1945, the world looked very different. Many countries were rebuilding their economies and industries from the ground up. Large companies faced financial problems. And many factories had been severely damaged. For Ferdinand Porsche and his family, this period brought serious challenges. After the war, authorities began investigating many industrial leaders and engineers who had worked during the conflict. Ferdinand Porsche was also questioned because of his involvement in wartime projects. During this time, he was detained for investigation, which created a difficult situation for his family and business. And these events placed enormous pressure on the Porsche family. The company's future became uncertain, and financial resources were very limited. For a moment, it seemed possible that Ferdinand's long engineering career might end in failure. However, the story of Porsche was not finished. While Ferdinand faced these problems, another member of the family was preparing to continue the dream. His son believed that the Porsche name still had a future in the automobile world. In the next part of the story, a new chapter will begin. A younger generation will take the lessons of the past and try to build something new. From this moment of difficulty, a legendary sports car brand will slowly emerge. After the war ended, the future of the Porsche family looked uncertain. The automobile industry in Europe was in a difficult condition. Many factories had been destroyed, and companies were struggling to restart production. All engineers and workers were trying to rebuild their lives while industries slowly recovered. During this difficult period, the responsibility of continuing the family dream began to shift to Ferry Porsche. Ferry had grown up watching his father design cars and solve complex engineering problems. From a young age, he had learned about engines, mechanics, and vehicle design. Now he believed that the Porsche name could still create something special. However, the situation was not easy. The family no longer had access to large factories or strong financial resources. Instead of a large industrial facility, the Porsche team worked in a small workshop located in Austria. Their tools were limited, and the team was small. Despite these difficulties, they had something very valuable. They had experience, creativity, and a strong belief in their ideas. Ferry Porsche had a simple vision. He wanted to build a sports car that was light, fast, and exciting to drive. At that time, many automobiles were heavy and slow. Ferry believed a car should feel alive on the road. It should respond quickly to the driver and deliver a thrilling driving experience. Using many parts and ideas from earlier designs, the small Porsche team began developing their first sports car. They worked carefully on the engine placement, the body shape, and the overall balance of the vehicle. Because resources were limited, every decision had to be practical and efficient. And slowly the design began to take form. The result was a small but powerful sports car known as the Porsche 356. This vehicle became the first car officially produced under the Porsche name. The Porsche 356 had several unique features. It was lightweight, which helped the car move quickly and smoothly. Its engine was placed in the rear of the vehicle, creating a balanced driving experience. The design was simple but elegant, and the car quickly attracted attention from automotive enthusiasts. Even though production numbers were small in the beginning, the Porsche 356 began building a strong reputation. Drivers appreciated its agility and performance. Racing teams also noticed that the car performed very well in motorsport competitions. Each victory on the racetrack helped the Porsche name become more respected. For the Porsche family, this moment was extremely important. After years of uncertainty and difficulty, they had successfully created a new automobile brand. The small workshop that once struggled to survive had now produced a vehicle that impressed drivers across Europe. This achievement marked the true birth of the Porsche sports car legacy. What began as a family effort in a modest workshop was slowly becoming an international automotive story. The success of the Porsche 356 opened the door for many future designs and innovations. In the following years, the company would continue improving its vehicles. New models would appear, and racing victories would increase, and the Porsche name would spread across the world. The dream that Ferdinand Porsche once imagined was finally becoming reality. The success of the Porsche 356 gave the company a strong start. Even though the first production numbers were small, the car quickly earned a reputation for performance and quality. Drivers loved its smooth handling and quick acceleration. Racing teams also discovered that the lightweight design made the car very competitive on racetracks. Because of these qualities, the young company Porsche slowly began attracting attention from car enthusiasts around the world. People who loved driving were especially impressed by the balance between power and control. Porsche vehicles were not only fast, they also felt precise and responsive on the road. During the 1950s, the company continued improving its designs. Engineers refined the engines, strengthened the mechanical systems, and improved the aerodynamics of the cars. These improvements made Porsche vehicles even more reliable and powerful. At the same time, the company started participating in many international racing competitions. Motorsport became a very important part of Porsche's identity. Racing allowed engineers to test new ideas under extreme conditions. Victories in races also helped the company build a powerful reputation. Each success on the track showed that Porsche engineering could compete with the best automobile manufacturers in the world. One of the most important moments in the company's history arrived in the 1960s. Porsche introduced a new sports car that would later become one of the most famous vehicles ever created. This model was called the Porsche 911. The Porsche 911 quickly became a symbol of high-performance engineering. It had a distinctive design, a powerful engine, and exceptional driving dynamics. Over time, the model was improved many times, but its core identity remained the same. Even today, the Porsche 911 continues to represent the spirit of the brand. As new models appeared, the Porsche expanded its presence in international markets. Drivers in Europe, America, and many other regions became interested in the company's vehicles. Porsche cars were admired for their combination of luxury, speed, and engineering precision. Owning a Porsche gradually became a sign of passion for performance and automotive craftsmanship. Despite its growing success, the company continued following the original philosophy that had guided the early designs. Porsche engineers believed that every vehicle should focus on performance, balance, and driver experience. This philosophy helped the company maintain a strong identity even as the automotive industry evolved. Today, Porsche is known as one of the most respected sports car manufacturers in the world. Its vehicles combine advanced technology with a long tradition of engineering excellence. What began as the dream of one engineer and his family has become an international automotive legacy. The journey from a small workshop to a global brand shows how powerful ideas can grow over time. It also reminds us that innovation and persistence can transform a simple vision into something extraordinary. The story of Porsche is not only a story about cars, it is also a story about ideas, patience, and determination. When we look at the modern Porsche company, we see beautiful sports cars and advanced technology, but behind this success, there is a long journey that began with one curious engineer. That engineer was Ferdinand Porsche. As a young boy, he was fascinated by machines and electricity. He did not grow up in a wealthy family, and he did not follow a traditional university path. Instead, he learned by experimenting, observing, and solving real problems. His curiosity slowly developed into remarkable engineering talent. Throughout his life, Ferdinand faced many challenges. Our technology was changing quickly, industries were growing, and the world experienced serious political conflicts. During World War II, many industries were forced to change their direction. These difficult events created uncertainty for many engineers and businesses. Despite these hardships, the Porsche family did not abandon their dream. After the war, Ferry Porsche continued the work that his father had started. With a small team and limited resources, he helped create the company's first true sports car. That car was the Porsche 356, and it became the foundation of the Porsche brand. Over time, Porsche vehicles became known for performance, precision, and elegant design. New models appeared, including the legendary Porsche 911. This car became one of the most recognizable sports cars in automotive history. It showed how powerful engineering ideas could evolve over many decades. There is an important lesson inside this story. Success rarely happens quickly. Most great achievements are the result of many years of learning, failure, and improvement. Ferdinand Porsche's early experiments did not immediately create a global company. Instead, they built the knowledge that later allowed the Porsche brand to grow. For English learners, stories like this are also very helpful. When you learn English through real stories, you understand words in a natural way. You learn vocabulary, sentence structure, and pronunciation at the same time. Listening to stories also improves your ability to follow longer conversations and explanations. If you continue practicing English with stories like this one, your confidence will slowly grow. Step by step, your vocabulary will become stronger. You will begin understanding more complex ideas and speaking more clearly. The story of Porsche teaches us two things at the same time. It shows how a simple dream can grow into a global achievement. And it also shows how learning step by step can lead to real progress. Today, you learned English through the true story of Porsche.